Back in the mo.
Jesus.
He's done that 3 times on me now. So each time it just, yeah, okay. Thanks, Darian. Bye, Darian.
Sounds like he dropped a drum kit.
Yeah. Just wait. It's just as bad when he picks it up as well. If only he knew how audio worked and how to mute himself. But these are little things. Right, can people actually see us is the big question. I haven't had any abuse yet on Discord, so I'm suspecting not.
Does the tiny piece of black foam make that much difference? Asked Michael Deere. What's he talking
Thank you,
about?
White Ball. Abuse. I think Darian adding something earlier. I don't know. Is that what you're talking about, Michael? it's like conversations with astronauts, isn't it? We need beep beeps as we wait for the echoed response. Oh, yeah, he did say he was putting up some soundproofing.
Well, that's going to make no difference. Is that what that is? Wait till he comes back. We'll absolutely tear him apart for this, don't we?
I think it is. Okay, take off your mics.
Here it comes.
Guys. It's gonna be painful. There we go.
What the chuff in hell is that piece of black foam above your head doing?
It's not just a piece of black foam. It's part of a ongoing project to reduce room noise.
Okay, as long as it's ongoing and not stopping there, because you're going to make no difference with those bits.
I don't know if that's true because I'm facing this way. So I don't think I get much bounce from back here. So since the like all projects, this one turns out to take much longer than I thought it would. I haven't quite finished doing the room, but I thought I'd better stop while we were podcasting. But yeah, the intention is to go back a little bit further, but not to do every inch of the walls. I know I can't actually hear my own voice anyway, of course, so I don't know if it's making a difference or not right now, but I imagine it'll help a bit.
You'll end up with a room like that, like John's got, where if you've been in one
An
of those,
anechoic chamber.
yeah, I've been in one of those. It's the most unnerving experience I've ever had, where you're just in the room and it's completely silent. I really didn't like it. It's second only to an MRI scan in things I wouldn't want to do again ever.
Well, that being the opposite, of course, because MRIs are bloody noisy. But
Yeah.
I don't think I'm in much danger of having complete eerie silence, not with the planes going overhead and the traffic going by. So, because of course, we all know that acoustic treatment isn't the same as soundproofing. So,
Fell asleep in your MRI. What the? Unless
said
you're
that?
on some enormous sedative, Nick.
yeah.
I'm astonished.
On the subject of Nick's, I haven't heard Nick speak. Can I just check that I can?
I'm
hear you?
speaking.
Love it. Thank
We all
you.
heard you. Yeah, okay.
Great, thanks.
Yes, people do like some people fall asleep in compact spaces, don't they? People like that. It's like that weighted blanket thing.
Even if
can't
you could do
imagine.
that, the noise of it would surely keep you awake.
White noise, Barry.
It's
You
not
need-
white noise.
No,
it's
you
like
need-
someone
no, I've
drilling
had
in
an
your
MRI
head.
and it's and it's not consistent either. It's so amazing. People comment on this. It's like it's not just like it's like I cannot understand what they can be doing that makes all those very, very different noises.
That's probably the best MRI impression I've heard. Darren.
Oh well, thanks. I'll take it.
Little crew on the road for that.
It's an unusual talent. Rarely called for.
The
Yeah,
John
how can we
Coleshaw medical
monetize
instruments.
Well, there was that. Oh God, I was going to say DSLR, but that's not the right one. AMSR, somehow what?
ASMR.
ASMR.
ASMR. That became big. Maybe if you can just work on that.
Not even going to try it.
Right?
Done my party piece for today.
I reckon Nick was into that kind of thing. ASMR, whatever it was.
What is it, like autosensory masmotic rhythm or something? Why doesn't anyone actually spell it out? Autonomous sensory meridian response.
Can we just check that the YouTube channel is actually working? Because someone was saying it wasn't there.
5 seconds, Miss Biggie.
Says excellent connection. It's working.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 o'clock. You just did that to distract me, didn't you?
Hello and welcome to the PC Pro podcast. It is the 3rd of July 2025. I'm Tim Danton, Editor-in-Chief of PC Pro. I have with me today Dr. Darian Graham-Smith.
Hello there.
Hello, thank you for the wave. We are live, by the way, on YouTube every single Thursday. If you want to see our ugly mugs, I don't recommend it, mainly because of Barry. But you know, everyone has their own predilections, so it's up to you, I suppose. Anyway, also Barry Collins.
Good afternoon.
And I'll balance that by saying you're looking very handsome today, Barry. Ignore what I said earlier. No response. And also Nick Rawlinson.
Oh,
We seem to have lost Nick. Oh, there we go. Okay.
he did suspiciously freeze with a pint glass at his mouth for about 30 seconds there.
Okay, so the question is now, do we barrel along in our kind of traditional amateurish way, or
coming
restart
back.
when Nick comes?
We're only about 10 seconds in, so surely if ever a restart was justified.
Do you think so?
Having not got past the names.
But Barry, I rehearsed those. Right,
Nick.
it's not looking great for Nick.
No.
Looking a bit black. Yeah, thanks, Cole. I'm sure I was here last week or something.
Maybe he's just got on with his acoustic redecoration a bit quicker than Darren has.
Yeah. Yeah, Nick is back.
Acoustic redecoration.
Right, well, what can I say? Yeah, that's what we can see
Yes,
as
Michael,
well.
that's
Mike.
Yeah.
what we're seeing.
We're well aware of the problem, Michael.
You know, if you can troubleshoot the problem, Mike, that we'll listen to your words of wisdom.
He's all screenshots, no solutions, that boy. I've always said it.
Yeah, I know. Bad connectivity in Chelmsford. Okay.
Chelmsford.
We messaged Nick because he might not know he's.
No,
Well,
he does
he
know.
should have done by now, surely.
Yeah. Well, I'll message him. Nick, in case you don't know. You go. Okay. Right. Maybe we should just barrel on for 50 minutes. What is Nick doing today? So he's got 2 stories. I feel like we need Nick.
Well, they are stories that we can talk about. It's not like it's some special secret revelation that he was going to.
That's
so
true.
rather than, we could start without him, and if he comes back, then we can.
Okay.
He's sort of
Turn
in, is
him
the
in.
problem, isn't he? He's in, but not live, as it were.
Yeah.
We can't kick him, presumably.
There's no kick button on the production console.
How can there not
unfortunately.
be? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's enshittification.
Language.
You have to pay to unlock the kick button.
Oh, it's
Oh.
two nicks.
Oh, there we go. A double Nick.
Double nicked.
But can we
Okay.
hear you now?
Yes. Speak to us, Nick.
Maybe. Is the
Yes.
other me paused?
It's just
Yes.
you're just black on the other one. It's just a black screen on the other one.
Oh, okay. I can't do anything about that because there's only one of me here.
Okay. Well, shall
This
we
will
just
mean a
go for
lot to the audio people, won't it?
it? It's okay. We will restart. Okay. Shall I just start again, Darian?
All right.
Hello and welcome to the PC Pro podcast. It is the 3rd of July 2025. I'm Tim Danton, Editor-in-Chief of PC Pro. We have with us today 3 fine gentlemen, not from Verona. Oh, that's a terrible joke. Let's not restart again. But the first of them is Nick Rawlinson.
Hello, Tim.
Hello, Nick.
I'm late.
Well, you're late, and also you're present twice on our video feed because, of course, what would a PC Pro podcast be without technical issues? But luckily, Darian Graham-Smith is here to solve them.
Hello. I don't think I'm frozen or duplicated.
No, well, only if we talk about your daughter. But anyway, and Barry Collins. Well, you know, your genes are duplicated, aren't they? But anyway, Barry.
Well,
I
not,
deeply
no.
regret saying that.
I don't think you were paying much attention at school, Tim. Not directly, but hello.
Well, there was. Okay, all right. I will side part that one. But there was quite an interesting podcast I listened to the other day about the selfish gene. Anyway, moving on. We shall talk about deleting passwords, please, Darian.
Yes, Microsoft has announced it's going to delete your passwords, so suck it up. No, it's not quite as drastic as that, but what's happening is, I mean, it's been no secret for a long time that Microsoft and many other companies want us to stop using passwords. They want us to stop using, good old losable, forgettable, shareable passwords and move on to more secure authentication techniques such as biometrics, and in particular, pass keys are the new cool thing, where you authenticate onto your device, such as with a fingerprint. Your device knows who you are. Then your device shares your cryptographic key with the service that you want to log on to. The service has the corresponding key, and if they mesh together, then it knows it's you. That's not exactly that's not how the Diffie-Hellmans or the RSAs of the world would have described it. But basically, that's the principle. Passkeys use two separate cryptographic keys. So even if someone gets into your device and pulls out your half of it, you're still safe as long as they don't have the biometric thing to unlock it. That was a terrible explanation, so why don't we just move on and say the reason it's in the news this week is that Microsoft Authenticator, the app that many networks and services require you to use to log on, is now about to phase out support for passwords entirely. Previously, you could use Microsoft Authenticator to authenticate yourself and then autofill a password into a supported service. But that's going to stop as of this month, and next month it's going to ditch all the passwords you previously saved. So if you've got anything in there that you don't have a copy of, you probably need to take some steps to get it out. Or, as is much more preferred, if you can, go to the service and get rid of your password and replace it with something more secure, namely biometrics or a pass key. It feels a bit sort of pushy, really, doesn't it? Sort of saying, not only do we encourage you to use pass keys, but we're going to actively delete the passwords that you've previously saved. But I suppose if anyone knows, it's Microsoft, that people will stick with the old system forever and ever and ever until you really, really force their hand. So that's what's happening.
Barry, good move.
In theory, yes. Although my experience with passkeys is very hit and miss so far. I find that, especially on Apple, on the Mac, it's very erratic as to how well they work. And so I've largely stuck with passwords stuck in Bitwarden for now, because as I say, I find them erratic. So I think the technology maybe needs a little bit more smoothing before I'd be willing to throw everything into passkeys.
Interesting, because theoretically it should be completely smooth. That's almost the whole point of passkeys.
Yes.
It should just work entirely seamlessly. Nick, does this match your experience on Macs?
To be honest, I'm a bit of a Luddite like Barry. I'm sticking to passwords for as long as I can, and I know I shouldn't, but passwords and 2FA feels fairly secure to me. So I'm also a Bitwarden user, and I'm sticking there for the moment.
Okay. This is quite interesting to have half of our panel here, supposedly the tech advanced crew, sticking with the old method, which is inherently less secure than the new method. I'm not sure what Davey would say if he was with here. Well, I do know what Davey would say. He'd say, "What the hell are you doing? Just move on to passkeys, embrace it." But
if they worked, it would.
yeah. User error, I think. But anyway, I suppose that's all part of it. Darian, are you a pass key hold-outer?
No, I've accepted pass keys whenever they've been offered to me in a convenient way, like Google or eBay or whatever says stop using your password, use a pass key instead, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. I do understand, although I may have stumbled a bit over the explanation. It is technically tricky to explain to people. I think that's a problem with pass keys in general. It's hard to explain why it's more secure to not have a password. It's counterintuitive, and the technology is not something you could you can explain in one sentence nice and neatly.
And the other thing, Darren, sorry to interrupt you and flow, but the other thing that I know Davey gets in terms of kickback from reader emails, etc., is that what if I lose my device where my biometric details are stored? So do you want to tackle that one and why it isn't really such an issue?
I don't know, to be honest. I haven't checked it. But I mean, one thing I can tell you is that as long as you can get in from some device, then you should be able to re-authenticate another device. But yeah, these are sort of questions that are raised when you think about getting rid of a password. And the other one, of course, is if I'm stuck at the end of a phone line, how do I tell my wife how to get into my laptop or whatever if she doesn't have my fingerprint, obviously, and I can't just give her my password. So it is a. There are some questions. Actually, I feel like have we done a feature on this in PC Pro? We probably should. And at the very least, that would give me a proper an excuse to research it and really learn the answer to some of these tricky questions.
Why not? It's clearly the a thing of the moment. I won't use an exotic language to say that. I'm sure you can, Darian. But the thing that I would emphasise is that you shouldn't really be sharing your passwords, Darian. I mean, that's kind of the part of it, isn't it? Really, what it's trying to do is get rid of that problem where people are sharing their passwords.
Well, I know what you mean, but I mean, from if it were a business laptop containing confidential information, it would be a problem that I was sharing my password. Since it is a personal laptop containing my personal information, it is a problem that I can't share it. It belongs to me, the data is mine, and I feel like I am in danger of being prevented from sharing it the way I want to by sort of technological coercion.
Okay. All right. And what is the second piece of news that Microsoft came out with?
Well, it wasn't really news this week, but it got some attention for some reason. So it must have been a very slow news week. The blue screen of death is going away. That doesn't mean that all Windows systems are henceforth never going to crash anymore, unfortunately. It just means that they're going to, in future builds of Windows 11, they're going to turn it from the iconic blue hue into a cleaner, simpler, more boring black screen with Windows encountered a problem or some similar phrasing in white in the middle of the screen, just like when it says Windows is installing updates or whatever, and just a little bit of technical information at the bottom. And that's that. As Ninja Nurse points out, the black screen of death, Michael Deere points out, black screen of death is still BSOD, so you won't need to update your abbreviation guide. Really, nothing is changing whatsoever in terms of usage, but it is, in a way, in a funny way, sort of the end of an era, sort of marking Microsoft's departure from yet another thing which has been consistent since the very early days. Notepad has got AI plumbed into it now, and there's all sorts of exotic things with
Even Paint does.
I was going to say, and now and now the blue screen of death ain't blue anymore. You can never go home again.
No, it does seem a bit counterintuitive. I must admit, this news story also passed me by. So, because with the dark mode, etc., we're getting used to black just being a normal kind of operating background look. Whereas that distinctive blue, no one would ever actually see that. So if you see it, you know immediately that there's a problem.
That is true. If you're managing a floor full of computers and you're glancing out over, and you see a blue screen among the sea of black or whatever, that is going to obviously be a very visible immediate alarm bell. I don't know how many corporate IT departments look like that nowadays, though. I think that might be a throwback to decades ago.
Well, part of me wonders if that is exactly the reason they're doing it, because of the whole CrowdStrike thing last year, where all we saw was media images of banks of blue screens. Whether they're trying to get away from that being such a stark visual of motif of failure that they're changing it.
Of course, they also changed Microsoft. We're not talking about this. We're talking about the screen itself, but not the underlying kernel change, where security stuff is going to be moved out of the kernel to make it much harder for errors to cause stability issues. That's also going to hopefully reduce the number of blue screens, or black screens as they will be.
Yes, I think the idea that we can get rid of the CrowdStrike style outages with a few tweaks are well, it seems unlikely to me. I know we're not covering it, Darian, so I won't go deep into it. But you've got also earlier in this year at CES, in fact, you had Intel talking about simplifying vPro, so that rollouts across businesses would actually include support for vPro. In which case, you can do remote diagnosis and without having to go round to everyone's desk like they had to in some setups. But how many people, I wonder, have actually are still using vPro, even though they've massively simplified the setup? I suspect it wasn't a huge uplift, but who knows? All right, Nick, unless you have strong views on the blue screen of death, or maybe some sort of superiority after all your years of using the Mac. I should say, for people who don't know, Nick was a former editor of Mac User, so
Still am a former editor.
and a pedant. So yes. Anything you'd like to add, Nick?
No. I would like to just wind back very briefly to passkeys, though. One of the reasons I've not picked up on it so much and not really adopted it so much is the number of times I've been forced to set one. There's at least 2 services that very frequently I'll get an email in my inbox that goes, "Oh, you've set a new passkey for this service." And I don't realize I've done it. It's because when you log in, it says about creating a passkey. It seems to somehow generate it because I obviously click the idiot button. And then I go in and delete that passkey as a matter of course because I want to have more control and more knowledge of what I've done with that passkey, where it's gone and how I'm going to use it. And I think combine that with Darian's problem of not really being able to explain what a passkey is and why it's much more secure than a password. And I can see why maybe take-up's not quite so high as it should be within the general public.
Can I just ask, do we know, does MacOS still use that old monitor and that old blue screen of death icon to show Windows systems on the network? I know it did for many, many years. And do you know what I'm talking? I suppose Nick doesn't know because he doesn't have any Windows systems on his network. But
I've got one in the drawer. If I just turn it on. No, genuinely. But it makes a lot of noise, which is why it lives in the drawer. I had to drill through the back of a pedestal. It's starting, so when it's done, I'll look on my network and I'll tell you.
Okay, thank you. Just because, I mean, it was always a bit of I thought, a rather unworthy dig at Windows to imply that all the Windows systems on the network were broken. But also it used, as I say, this very old CRT monitor graphic, and it used a very old text-based blue screen. So I was going to say, if Windows updates to now the black screen of death, will macOS follow suit? But since it's last time I checked, it was still using imagery from Windows 95. I'm not sure. Not going to hold my breath for that.
Can I very briefly lift my camera and show you, because it's going to be horrible as I'm moving it around, but.
For viewers listening in black and white, Nick is showing us. Yep, that's it. That's the classic CRT blue screen of death icon. Ridiculous.
Although
These doesn't say.
The 2 CRTs here, which are not in focus, and for anyone who's on the audio stream alone, it's beige CRTs with what has got tiny amounts of screen writing on it, are actually printers, as is this, which looks more like an iMac. There's a Raspberry Pi that looks like an iMac. There's a Mac Mini that looks like a Mac Mini, and then there's a device I don't recognise that looks like a laptop.
Okay.
So
it's a bit concerning if you've got devices you don't recognise on your network.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, I think I should curtail this here, until the spin-off podcast about what's on Nick's desktop. Which
and can Darian do an impression of it?
Yes. So let us instead move on to your story, please, Barry.
This is a chap called Mohammed Umar Taj, who is currently serving 7 months at His Majesty's pleasure, because he decided to go a bit crazy on his company's network when he was suspended from work. It's not quite clear why he was suspended, but he clearly took it quite badly, because the following day he got back into, I think he actually physically got back into the premises and then changed access credentials and the company's multi-factor authentication settings, so it basically locked out the firm from their own computer system, apparently causing an estimated £200,000 in lost business and reputational damage. And Mr. Taj got his collar felt, basically. It seems he somehow, the police somehow got hold of phone calls of him basically admitting to doing this, and it's not revealed quite how they managed that. But he was this earlier last week and sentenced to 7 months inside. So if you do get fired from your company and you're thinking about causing a little bit of IT carnage, just beware that you may end up in a cell of your own.
I don't think that's the lesson to learn here. I think the lesson to learn here is surely for network admins or any kind of this happens all the time. People leave a company and they still for weeks, days afterwards have access to all this sensitive information, emails, etc., etc. And it's actually just such bad bad habit, just bad cleanliness to not sort it out. So surely that's the top advice to give people, Darian.
I was just, I mean, no one comes off looking good here. Like you say, I mean, if you're firing someone who has privileged access to your IT systems, then that's a security issue that you should be on top of. Similarly, though, if you are an IT worker who has privileged access to systems, you should not be so stupid as to go in and delete things and expect that it's not going to be very obvious and clear that you have done it, you personally, unauthorizedly, maliciously. I mean, I was baffled by this story because what was he thinking? What did he think was going to be the result? Did he think they'd just shrug their shoulders and say, "Oh well, I guess that's what we get for firing him"? And it's a crazy situation.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make sense. Nick, many thoughts?
I wouldn't have done it.
Okay, so what's the worst thing that let's just try and think. We know that Sony, I'm pretty sure the Sony rootkit problem. Do you remember that back from many years ago?
Yeah,
I think that I'm sure. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was actually traced back to a Sony employee placing the rootkit into place, and it was. If I do remember incorrectly, that was a disgruntled employee. So this thing just goes on for forever, assuming that I'm correct, which is obviously very dubious. So I don't know. Why do we always keep on making these mistakes?
The one thing I forgot to mention here is he admitted a charge of committing unauthorized acts of intent to impair the operation of or hindering access to a computer, which I hadn't heard of before. Maybe it's just me, but that specific offence, I don't know if that's a relatively new thing or what. But
so what is the offence, Barry?
Oh God, make me read that again. A charge of committing unauthorized acts with intent to impair the operation of or hindering access to a computer. So that was a new one on me. I don't know if that's...
Yeah, these are defined in the Computer Misuse Act of, I think, 2020. So yeah, these are sort of new sub crimes under the general heading of different ways you can misuse a computer.
Yes, well, luckily we have a lawyer, or I can't remember, Ali Kalman. I can't remember if you are now just operating on a consultancy basis or not. Anyway, maybe you can clarify. But anyway, Ali knows about this stuff, and he's also talked about the Computer Misuse Act and the uses it can be applied to, describing it as his old friend.
I'm sorry, I was a little bit out. It's not the Computer Misuse Act 2020. It's actually the Computer Misuse Act 1990. So these things have been around for a little bit longer than I realised.
Okay. And Ali has kindly clarified he's a retired barrister, but his comment was, when your company goes bust, it is not best practice to call a fire alarm and shut down the systems totally when all the staff have left the building. Yeah, don't do that, folks. Listen to the PC Pro podcast. Listen to the wisdom coming from us, which don't do that. But you can listen to Ali, but don't listen to us. All right, let's move on to something that I suffer from: dissolving memory. Nick,
Failing memory. Although in this case, not failing memory. This, as you say, is about dissolving memory. It's from the Korea Institute of Science and Technology, which has developed a new polymer that degrades entirely in water. And they're using it at the moment for memory chips. It doesn't sound as brilliant as it might do yet. It says they've managed to store data for 10,000 seconds, which when I did the maths is about 2 3/4 hours. But they have been able to distinguish between on and off states more than 1 million times reliably, and done 250 read erase cycles, and it still works, and it's been bent about 3,000 times, and this piece of memory still works. And that's not been the case in previously biodegradable devices. So this is quite exciting. I think, maybe in a few years' time, when it's moved on a bit more, it might have some really good uses. But at the moment, they're talking about it possibly being useful for medical use, where they may be able to put it in the body and not then have to remove it after surgery. So you don't have to go through that trauma of a follow-up, because it's going to just degrade within you. It does literally disappear within water entirely, the electronics and the storage and everything. You could leave it in eco-sensitive areas as a monitoring device. Armies could put it behind enemy lines, for example, fairly sure that it's never going to fall into enemy hands, or at least if it does, it's going to disappear quickly. And the way they can control that is by wrapping it in a surface that dissolves at a set rate. They can change the composition and the thickness of that surface So effectively, it's a bit like a fuse or a time delay. And once that surface has disappeared, then water can get into the actual polymer inside, and the whole thing's gone within 3 days.
What I'm trying to figure out, I've been looking at various sources. 10,000 seconds is, of course, pretty useless if that is the entire life cycle of the memory. It's great if that's its non-volatile. Well, I say it's great. It's very good if that's its non-volatile survival. Because I mean, obviously, these aren't, as I understand it, these aren't flash memory chips. They're not intended to, you just put something on it, then cut the power, leave it on a shelf for a month, and come back when you need it. Actually, DRAM has to be refreshed like thousands of times a second, if I'm not mistaken. So if this has a longer life than that, you could, if we're talking about just the refresh time, how long it can store data between being rewritten, that could be pretty cool. That could mean you could power it with a very, very low power battery that only needed to flash it, once an hour. I don't know. I cannot find it's difficult because obviously this is kind of cutting edge research, and also the primary sources are all in Korean, which isn't helping me.
No. Also, I wonder whether they've got a biodegradable battery.
Fair.
The other thing, I mean, when you say it's biodegradable, does it leave no trace at all? As in, there's no chemicals or anything left over? Because if you're talking about, like you say, putting it in the body, and this thing effectively dissolves, there must surely be some residue chemicals left in the body.
It's a good question. I mean, I've read this on a few sites. Like Darian, obviously, I've had trouble finding the exact words of the original. But one of the sites on which I found it was Eureka Alert. And the wording there is, once this protective layer dissolves, so that's the thing I talked about with the different thickness and composition that changes the rate at which it is exposed to water for disappearing. Once this protective layer dissolves, the material degrades naturally in water within approximately 3 days without leaving any residue. My hope would be if it's in the body, you then just either sweat it out or wee it away.
Yes, and it's well known, isn't it, as actually Michael Deere points out on Discord, that we do swallow quite a few plastics anyway. It's not as if our bodies are pure temples. Well, I can certainly speak for myself. So, what's another bit of plastic? It's all fine.
And we all swallow spiders in bed, and they biodegrade too. So,
sorry,
Nick.
Spiders, 11 spiders a year. Everyone swallows.
That's a bogus
myth,
thing.
Isn't
That was
I don't.
I'm going to start counting.
I'm going to look it up.
Okay.
Okay. So ingrained in popular culture that many people now accept it as fact. But the reality is that the average human swallows no spiders at all ever.
They're still biodegradable, though.
Well, that's true.
Well, they're organic matter. Anyway, let us just say, surely, how have we got to this point? No one's mentioned Mission Impossible as this is the perfect way to transmit it for spies in foreign networks.
Because if you don't get there within 3 days, it's gone.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
Actually, it's the reverse of the perfect way.
Sorry, on.
No, it's the reverse of the perfect way to take anything, isn't it? Because
Well,
it's about disappearing rather than preserving.
yeah, but that's what I mean. Sorry, I'm talking about Mission Impossible. Surely you know Mission Impossible. And
Yeah.
If you choose to accept this mission, then this podcast will explode, which I think it already has actually.
So it does about once a week.
But so if you had a variant upon this where it could just, this is early research, and we should, I look at research things quite a lot, and almost all of them, of course, come to nothing. But actually, lots of them, some of them, just then come to completely change our lives. For example, using MOSFET processors as a way of making processors. So, but that all started off in a lab as well, as did a transistor in 1949 or something like that. So
He's plugging his book again. Careful.
Oh, good point, actually, Barry. Book's almost out, guys. It'll be out in mid-September. Thanks, Barry. So, and it is mentioned, you're quite right. But the point I was trying to make is that yes, some of these things do come into reality, but also some of them, shift shape and aren't what the initial piece of research says. So yeah, this is 3 days, but there's nothing to say that you can adjust it to be 20 seconds, and then suddenly it can be used in the reboot of Mission Impossible 79. Okay, all right. Anything else anybody wishes to say about this? Okay, all right, Barry. falls on you to talk about the next story for 20 minutes.
So this is Cloudflare, who have introduced
Just
a
talk
new...
slowly. Good thinking.
Yeah, that's like just a minute. They've introduced a system this week called Paper Crawl, which is a way to try and eke some money out the AI companies for continually hammering your website with spiders to get AI answers or training data. So the idea here is that Cloudflare, which basically protects about 20% of the known web in terms of firewalls and CDNs and that kind of stuff, they will effectively put a paywall between your content and the AI spiders. So every time they try and crawl to your site, you can basically put up a setting that says to crawl this website you must pay X amount of dollars, and some automatic exchange takes place. So if the AI site has a budget to search your site at that point, it can go ahead and crawl the site. If it doesn't meet the required value, then it gets turned away, basically, like any other bots can be blocked at the firewall level. And so the idea here is that it gives content owners a way to make money from AI services crawling their content, because right now, as we all know, if you use ChatGPT, yes, if AI crawls your site and gets an answer, you might get a little lozenge of a credit somewhere in the answer, but the chances of anyone clicking on that are minuscule. And so the revenue that was once being generated from website adverts has diminished rapidly, as we've discussed many times in previous weeks. So Cloudflare are trying to deliver a way in which content owners and publishers can recoup some revenue, assuming that is, and it's a massive assumption, that the AI companies are willing to play ball here. So while Cloudflare has a number of pretty high profile publishers apparently interested and signed up to this beta plan right now, what we haven't seen yet is the likes of OpenAI or Microsoft or Google or any of the big AI firms say, yes, we're willing to pay for this content.
Yes, although they are indirectly paying for it in lawsuits, etc. So if we can establish a framework whereby everyone agrees this is how you do it, then it's got to be for the good. I will just add one thing though, Barry, which is that it's not just Cloudflare isn't doing this for the, because it's such a generous soul, is it? It's doing this to open up a potentially massive new revenue stream.
Yeah, they'll obviously take a cut, I'm sure, but that's fair enough. If you invent the system that makes you the gateway between person A and person B in the same way, Visa does or whatever, then you're going to take a slice of the revenue. So I think that's fair enough.
Oh, no, no, absolutely, it's fair enough. It's just that I don't think we should be painting Cloudflare as being, some sort of godlike being that is just there to be nice to everyone else. But talking of godlike beings, Nick, what do you think of this move?
It's tricky, isn't it? I was reading a story that was related to this. Matthew Prince, who's the CEO of Cloudflare, was speaking at Cannes, and some of it was reported in a newsletter called What's New in Publishing. I don't know whether you've ever read it. But one of the little sort of nibs that was added onto the bottom of that was that 10 years ago, Google crawled 2 pages for every visitor sent to a publisher. Today it's 18 to 1, and for OpenAI, the ratio is 1,500 to 1. So as a publisher, obviously, and all of us know because we work in publishing, it's very difficult to work out what the future is and where the revenue is coming from. But equally, my other thought is, you might only get 1 visit for every 1,500 pieces of content that is providing inspiration for an AI service. But if you're not in there at all, then you're getting nil. And at the end of the day, do you want to be getting a very small amount, or do you want to be getting none? And I think for most publishers, the answer will be obviously they'd like a lot, but they'll take a small amount if that's all that's on offer. I'm not sure whether the financial kickback of a system like this is adequate compensation. It depends, obviously, what's being paid. We don't know yet at this stage whether the revenue is worth having, do we?
No, well, it is private beta, so people are being invited into it at this point. So it's still very, very early days. But I don't know. I feel actually generally quite positive towards it. I should clarify, rather than I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I think we do need to do these things. John Honeyball on Discord asks who voted Cloudflare to be the gatekeeper of the internet, and that is a fair point. Should a company be doing this as opposed to some sort of other organisation, Barry?
Well, I don't know who else that other organisation is. I mean, so they only protect around 20% of the sites anyway, so it's not like they have a monopoly on this. But obviously, if this takes off and publishers can see there's a revenue stream from AI from this, then I imagine the idea is that more publishers will sign up for Cloudflare. You know, that's business. I've got no real problem with Cloudflare doing this. My one fear over the system is that, assuming this is for day-to-day queries rather than training data, how does the site know if it contains? How does the AI, know that if the site contains an answer until it's crawled it? You have to crawl to be able to see whether the site has the data you're looking for. So in some senses, they're going to be asked to pay before they can even get in to look to see if they've got the right answer. And I think that could be a potential barrier, although I see they've talked about that a little bit on the long blog they put out and said about, there'll be sites with certain expertise where, if you're doing some research into medical data, for example, you might go to the British Medical Association's website, for example, because you think there's a reasonably high chance that they will have information on that. But as I say, the big question is whether the AI companies are going to be willing to stump up to pay for this. I suspect they might try it out of trying to show goodwill, but whether this turns into a long-term business model, that really does wait to be seen.
Nick?
You can turn that around, Barry, and say, would you pay for a book before you knew whether the contents were definitely what you're after? And at the end of the day, you do pay for a dictionary and well, maybe not an encyclopedia or a dictionary these days, but you do pay for reference works before you know for definite that they do contain all the facts that you want.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay, Darren, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, I think Jeff Campbell hits the nail on the head on Discord when he says they finally implemented proper micro billing like we've been demanding since about 1994. This is true. I mean, ever since the first ad-supported website went up, we've been saying it would be really great if we had the option to pay half a penny every time we visit Facebook or whatever. So there's another revenue stream, which isn't, the being locked into a subscription, but equally isn't having your eyeballs seared with commercial stuff. In terms of the AI application of it, I do wonder whether it's going to work out, partly because, I hear what Nick's saying about, you have to kind of take a punt on whether the thing you're looking at is going to contain what you want. But I think for AI, it's going to need to be, I see it evolving in a way that AI services will start to get more selective about what they're looking at if they have to pay to. I don't think I could just put make the Darien wiki and charge 16 pence every time someone crawls it and then retire. AI is already a very expensive business just in terms of the compute power it needs to operate. So I think there's going to be, I think there will be a response. I don't think it's going to be, just woohoo, free cash for everyone. Not that Cloudflare suggested it would be, but in general, if there is a platform in place where you can now, where sites can now take a nugatory sum for a one-off visit, I hope it does expand beyond just just the likes of ChatGPT and Perplexity and what have you. And I hope that I will finally be able to go to, I don't know, what's the website? I can't think of one. Go to Google, let's say, and pay a penny for my search rather than having to pay in other ways, as they say.
Well, that does raise an interesting point about the financial model here as well, because if this does take off and the AI companies do have to pay every time you enter a query, there is a strong likelihood that they'll charge you on a pay per query basis rather than the sort of all-you-can-eat subscriptions that we have now. So, and that happens already with OpenAI, for example. If you use their API instead of ChatGPT, you are charged for the output. You charge for what you use. Now, are general consumers going to be willing to pay for AI where they're effectively billed for every query? But I don't know. That's a tricky model because the costs are not always amazingly obvious. The length of a query, how much is it going to cost to access information on that site? It's never really going to be a fixed price to start with. So it'll be interesting to see how that boils down.
Well, I can see, already it's very well established in other areas. You can have ad hoc pay-as-you-go use, or you can subscribe and have everything thrown in. Well, yeah, that's all I was going to say.
Yeah, and okay. The most important thing, perhaps, well, from a selfish perspective, is from the publisher's point of view, to have some sort of possible route to survival. The way the publishers have been paid over the past 20 years on the websites, it started off with having incredible MPUs. This was for every 1,000 site times that someone saw one of those embedded adverts in the middle of a story, a publisher got £15-25. This was it depended on the publisher, but if you were PC Pro, for example, that's what the sales team would be trying to sell you at that time, and that's how people paid for the PC Pro website in its early days. But then that, with Google Ads and programmatic advertising, that completely ripped away that business model. The prices just massively dropped down because the argument that you could now follow a visitor to PC Pro, and who could go to a site like Yahoo News, for example. I am going back a bit now, and they would still be able to follow that person and embed that advert, but they'd be able to do it for a fraction of the price. So this is why that business model basically disappeared. And then, new business models popped up. For example, the most recent one that is paying for a lot of the websites, tech websites that you look at, is affiliate revenue, whereby every time that you buy something from site.x, they would get a tiny fraction of 0.5%, let's say, of the cost of that product, and multiply that up, it becomes quite a nice revenue stream. And so that became the revenue, but that's going away now, because now the AI has taken it all. So we are now moving into yet another era of publishing and of websites, whereby but they're trying to make money, and they're currently, at the moment, you'll see a lot of people moving behind pay-per-view paywalls, because that's been the most proven way to do things, and also it pushes up the quality of the content. So you will see that happening even more than it already has happened. But you'll also see a race to the bottom on the other side. And so we talked about this before, but the plague of modern websites, where you're hit by all these horrible video ads. And the reason why they do that is because that's the only way they can actually make a decent amount of money per visit, is because to make it a horrible experience, but get as many revenue sources as they can. So anyway, if we can move to a new platform, a new way of doing things, where you can actually make money by having high quality writing or video, whatever it may be, and it's done so via this new form of payment, then I'm just totally behind it, is what I think. All right. Anybody want to argue with me? Otherwise, we'll just move on to Nibs.
That's above my pay grade, that sort of thing.
If only... Actually, I would say, Darren, you said that you couldn't set up your own wiki and make money from it. Actually, do you know what? You probably could, because the depth of research you do is beyond what most people will do to actually find out the truth behind a subject. So actually, if you set up a wiki and had this new model, then you could become an expert source on whatever. So don't write it off. I mean, Barry less so, but I think you've got a good chance. All right.
Thanks.
I don't mean it, Barry. I think people do think I bully you on this podcast. I don't mean to. You know that.
Get on with it.
Nibs. Okay, the first nib is a big purchase. Well, quite big. Xerox has bought Lexmark for $1.5 billion, which is quite a lot of money for a what many people think is a receding industry of printing. However, I still believe in printing, and so I can see why they bought it. Anyway, that has completed, and will just say as well that in the enterprise space, Hewlett Packard has finally completed its deal to buy Juniper Networks for, okay, how much do you reckon that cost, Nick? How much do you reckon it cost for HPE to buy Juniper Networks?
£1 billion.
$15 billion to you, sir. So anyway, that has made a lot of shareholders very wealthy. Anyway, and no doubt will shape HPE's strategy moving forward as well.
On Lexmark, didn't Dell buy Lexmark at some point? Am I going mad?
Oh, yeah, I do think I remember hearing that.
Yeah. Or did they?
About 20 years ago. It was a long while ago.
Or didn't? I'm not sure they. They may have done.
I've got it. No, they had a deal. Where Lexmark printers were rebranded as Dell if they wanted to sell them as part of the Dell bundle.
Yeah, because I remember actually there was the controversy about the fact that you couldn't then. It's exactly the same machine, but they chipped it so that you couldn't put a Dell, a Lexmark printer cartridge into the Dell printer. Happy days. All right, item number 2, please, Nick.
This is hot gossip about a potential new Apple computer with keyboard, just to distinguish it from iPads, that's going to be running on an A18 Pro chip, if the gossip is true, which is the chip that we see at the moment in the iPhone 16 Pro. And I'm very excited about that because obviously they'd have to be very keen with their pricing because they don't want to damage sales of the MacBook Air, neither do they want to damage sales of iPad Air. At the moment, I've had a look at the prices. An iPad Air M3 with a 13-inch screen, which is probably where I reckon this machine would go, is about $799 with 128 gig of memory. So if they could keep it below that, say $599, and it's only the kind of thing that I'd use for writing and using on the move, something nice and light and thin and doesn't do a great deal, but is quite good at Office apps, I'd definitely be buying one of them. So I'm not sure whether it's going to happen. If it does, I'd be in the market for it. I think what the more interesting question is, though, is how this plays into what we saw last week, or last month rather, with the way the iOS and macOS, visionOS, watchOS and tvOS are shaping up to all be very, very similar. Is this actually going to be a toe in the water for Apple for building a laptop with iOS or an iOS macOS hybrid? I would very much hope that is the case. I've not seen that discussed anywhere. That was just a bit of supposition when I was writing my notes about this. It seems to make an awful lot of sense.
Barry's nodding.
Well, I find it curious that they're going to use mobile processors in MacBooks. It doesn't make any sense to me, and it's not like I can't imagine their supply is particularly constrained, so I don't understand the motivation for doing this. On price alone, I'm sure Apple could take the haircut if it wanted to produce a $599 laptop. So I don't know, there's something about this room that doesn't quite add up to me, but I wonder if you're right that it's something almost like a new device category that bridges that mobile macOS divide, in which case, yes, keep me in the mailing list as well.
When you look at the revenues for iPad and Mac, which I did just before we did this, it looks like the two of them combined are roughly 2/3 of what you get from iPhone. So I think both of them, in terms of a billion, whatever it is, plus trillion plus company, are fairly small fry. An awful lot of what Apple makes money on is services anyway.
Yeah.
I think another way to get people into buying those services with a very cheap device, even if it cannibalizes those other two segments a little bit, would probably make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I said bring back the netbook.
The Newton.
Well, yeah, or the Newton. But I just keep it really simple and just have a very, very affordable, very slim laptop that costs 300 quid, but does what it needs to do very, very well. There's no reason why now that can't be done. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going to start up a new business immediately and start doing that. Final nib, please, Darian.
Yeah, Google has released its annual sustainability report, and it buried in there, it reveals that Google's usage of energy, of electrical power, has doubled in the past 4 years. In 2000, it used 14.4 gigawatt hours. Last year, in 2024, it used 31 gigawatt hours of electricity, and that is almost entirely accounted for. 96% of that is data center. So this is, and you might say this is, due to its massive investment in Gemini, obviously in the past few years. But actually, if you graph it out, it's been a fairly steady increase. So it seems like Google has just been throwing more and more silicon at competing. Probably like expanding into all sorts of things that many of us would say this is a stupid idea. Why are you like even trying to invest in that? But it's still a really big company. And there was something else I was going to say about it, but I've totally forgotten what. So maybe let's wrap up there.
Yes, I was just trying to get an idea of actually what that could be, and I've used AI to find this out. And according to Copilot, that 30.8 million milliwatt hours.
Milliwatt hours? No, it's a little bit more than that.
30, sorry. Anyway, the figure that you said, 38.8 million megawatt hours, is equivalent to roughly 8.1 million homes being powered for a year.
I know what I was going to say. I was going to say Google's already made plans to buy an enormous amount of nuclear energy from, I believe, a plant that hasn't been brought online yet. So it's anticipating that its demands are just going to keep going up and up.
Okay, thank you. Unless I'm very much mistaken, this is the day which the new issue of PC Pro comes out. So that's issue 371, and so I think you should definitely all rush out to buy that. And I'm in no way stalling to bring up the cover to remind myself of what it actually looked like. So issue 371 has leads on AI laptops. Oh, thank you, Barry. But actually, do you know what? Although obviously everyone loves the new laptops, etc., and a lot of them are very, very affordable, as I was just discussing, Chromebooks from $299, so you can see all those rated. But it's actually your feature, Barry, which got me really thinking more than anything else. Which, do you want to just briefly describe what you did?
Is this my AI feature?
It's your AI. Make yourself immortal with our AI.
Yes. So I have been looking into so-called death bots or grief bots, where you can tell an AI all about your life, and then when you drop off mortal twig, your relatives and friends have a little chatbot to talk to for the rest of eternity, or at least as long as they keep paying a subscription for. I'm not going to sort of give the feature away, but probably safe to say there's a bit of work to do on these particular pieces of technology without even delving into the multitude of ethical issues that surround these things, which we explore in the feature.
Yeah, I think it's the ethics that are most interesting. It's the would you do it? Are you right to do it? Should you do it for yourself? Are the benefits of actually does it give people a fake idea of this, that someone's still being with them, and is that good? Is it actually helpful? There are all these sort of questions that to be explored and are explored in the issue, which also has a lovely article by you, Nick, about Google Docs and Sheets and using hidden features built into them. And I've already used one of them, by the way.
Oh, which one?
I think it's the watermarking. Actually, it's not.
You caught him out there, Nick.
Brilliant. There was a watermarking thing in it, but actually, do you know what I did do? I looked up to see whether you talked about templates, and because I used repeated templates a lot, and so I'll come clean. I haven't actually used any of the features. However, I did make me think, actually, am I tapping into the full power of Docs? Because there is so much stuff it can do. But what it can't do, it doesn't actually have a template system in the same way that Word does. You've got the pre-made templates that Google has, but you can't actually create your own. So you have to go and make a copy, and then it just says, oh, but just keep that copy handy, and then you just can copy from it. Yeah, that's fine, but it's not a template.
There are quite a few template sites that you can visit, and you'll click on a site, a template, and it opens in your Google Docs. And then obviously you then, as you say, you save it off. Then there's another copy.
Yeah. Anyway, lovely feature. I dug myself into a hole there, and now I'm going to emerge from it by saying it's time for the hot hardware of the week. What have you got, Barry?
Yeah, it's not a keyboard. This is a tiny little Bluetooth speaker. It is the Sony SRS XB100. And about a fortnight ago, my daughter turned 15, and she and her friends were going to land in our garden and have a little party. And I thought, how am I going to stop the neighbours complaining for the next fortnight about all the sound of music? I will get a Bluetooth speaker that's quiet enough that it wouldn't wake the dead. And I was quite wrong, because this little thing is exceptionally loud for the size of it. I mean, you can see it's about the size of a coffee mug, and it is surprisingly loud, especially when you've got a gaggle of 15-year-old girls in your back garden. But it will easily fill a room, certainly a small room like this, but a living room, maybe a living room stretching it, but it's certainly got enough pump and clarity to deliver decent levels of music. It certainly kept a party of 15-year-old girls happy. It has pretty incredible battery life for a device that is not very big at all. They claim 16 hours. Well, it was used on that day at pretty much full volume for about 7 hours, and we've used it continually since, like on and off, and it's still got 40% of its battery left from a full charge. So the 16-hour claim certainly looks credible. What can I tell you about it? Other than that, it's a simple Bluetooth speaker. You can make and receive phone calls on it. It can be part of a stereo pair, so if you buy two of them, you can create a sort of mini stereo system. As you can see, it comes with a handy little what do you call that, carry handle. It's sort of fabric strap that wraps around a little catch there. It's waterproof and dustproof, apparently. I've not given that any significant testing, but it did get half a can of Coke spilt near it, and it still survived. It's been used in the shower repeatedly by my daughter and not suffered any ill effects yet. And it costs 37 of your finest pounds currently from Amazon, so it's pretty darn cheap. And so in terms of a very nice little portable speaker that you can carry around and not get drastically upset if it breaks, I'm pretty impressed by it.
And I see that you can actually use it to make phone calls as well, because it must. So does it have a microphone in it, or is it just
Yes.
using?
Yeah, it does, and it's fine. I've tested it. I did a call quality when I was using it for. I was using it to speak off my phone, and somebody rang, and I held a perfectly fine conversation with them, so it's fine. The sound
sounds
quality
unlikely.
is surprisingly. It's surprisingly good on bass. In fact, if anything, it's slightly too heavy on bass, but it's really quite. I'm impressed by quite how good a quality the sound is for something that costs less than a meal out these days.
So I shall be the spirit of John, because as soon as anything audio comes up in the podcast as hot hardware of the week, John goes into quite a lot of detail. He says don't use it as to be with a set of TV speakers because there's too much latency. He's saying, yeah, I won't go into the detail, but anyway, he just said that the latency is too much for you to use it on TV. It'll just be too irritating. So have you tried that, Barry? Do you agree with that?
I've not, but I can't. It's not for me a device that you would use as a pair of TV speakers, so I don't really. I mean, yeah, don't do it.
Don't do it, kids. Okay. Is there anything else that we need to know about it, or do we have any questions from the floor? Nick?
It reminds me of something I had when I was 15 that also made noise, which was a can that you turned upside down, and when you turned it back, it made a cow sound, and it looks exactly like that. And
How old were you,
I
Nick,
like
with
it.
that baby toy?
I may still have had it when I was 15. I certainly didn't get it when I was 15.
Okay.
But happy days.
Happy days. Darian, any questions on this?
No, I mean, there's not really much to say about a little device like this, is there? I think we've done very well to eke it out as long as we have.
There are a couple of questions from the floor that I'll address. Someone was saying, does it come in different colours? Yes, it does. There's like an aqua blue, a white, and an orange version. Kevin365 asked, does it have an aux input? No, it does not. The only input is the USB-C port for charging it. I don't think you can use that for audio out, but don't sue me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, and we should say there are many different models available, and this one, it came out a couple of years ago, didn't it? It's not brand new
Yeah, it's
or
not new.
anything, But it's a decent speaker for £37, as you say. Or you can buy it from other places. That's the Amazon price, but it's quite widely available still. So typically for around £40. Okay, I think we might just be ready for a vote.
I'm sorry, I do have one question.
Oh,
Where's
okay.
the power button? Is it conveniently on the top or annoyingly hid around the back, or?
Well, there is no back; it's circular, but it's on the side. All the buttons are in a strip here on the side.
Okay. Just because I've got an Ultimate Ears Mega Boom or something, and you turn it on by pressing down on the top, and I find that very pleasing, and it's very unfiddly. It's just a positive experience.
Okay.
Have you created a poll, Darian?
Me? No.
Okay, hang on. I'm on it. So, talk
All
and
right.
type at the same time. I don't know.
Okay, Nick, hot or not?
Hot.
Okay. Punchy. Darian, hot or not?
Yeah, I think it's hot. I mean, you can never really tell with. I mean, any audio thing. There's no possibility of us really hearing how it sounds. You have to kind of experience it for yourself in a way that is impossible over VoIP. So I'm still, although Barry's said all the right things about it, I'm still a little bit uncertain about how it's going to compare to a larger thing with bigger drivers and so on. But in general, yes, I think this ticks all the boxes I would ask for. So I'm feeling quite positively inclined towards it. So hot, yes.
I'm going hot, and the reason I am is because it looks like a really good travel companion, and I often find myself in hotel rooms just looking for listening to the speaker on my laptop or my phone, and being sadly disappointed by it. I'm the sort of person who can't obviously bear to be within my own thoughts, and so I do often use such speakers in the shower generally. So it gets a plus for that as well.
I'm sorry, belatedly, after already having cast my vote, I've just remembered I do have a question. The thing I don't like about my existing Bluetooth speaker is it charges over micro USB, which has a very low wattage, or relatively low. This one I see has Type C. Does it recharge quickly? That's a big deal for me. It's very annoying if you find it's dead and you've got to wait 8 hours or whatever for it to fill up.
Yeah, so all I can say, when I got it, it had about 60% battery charge, and it got to a full in about half an hour. So
Okay, yeah,
take from
that's
that what you will.
much more bearable.
Okay, Barry, hot or not?
Yeah, for a very cheap throwaway little device that I'm quite happy for my daughter to pick up and abuse. It's fine, and the sound quality is surprisingly good. It's obviously not going to match a high-end speaker system or even bigger USB speakers, but Bluetooth speakers. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by the sound quality and the battery life.
Okay, and so that's a clean sweep of hots in the room, and we've also got a win on the reader poll. 68% saying yes, hot. 32% saying not. So there you go. Congratulations, Barry. Congratulations, Sony. And just in case you did not pick up the model number at the start, that is for the Sony XB100 portable wireless speaker. All right, thanks everyone. It's a relatively short one this week, so there we go. Until next week's podcast, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Right, I'll get back to paneling my studio. What? It's something I've been meaning to do for ages. It's just when you buy these things, they come really amazingly compressed. I thought there had been a mistake. They look like just complete black sheets of flat foam, and then what you have to do is you have to soak them in the bath. And I don't know exactly why, but that's what's recommended. I looked it up. This is normal, and then you pop them in the tumble dryer, and then when they come out, they're this deep. It's kind of amazing.
Why don't you use egg boxes?
We can use egg boxes, but I don't know. I don't have a supplier. I mean, for one thing, they don't look quite as nice. They're probably not quite as effective. But also, I imagine by the time you've got, so what have I got here? I think 36 square feet of egg boxes. The cost is probably not going to be that much different. This was only 30 quid for the whole lot.
And it'll keep you warm in winter.
Yeah, well, maybe. I don't know, actually. I don't know what the thermal properties of it are, but yes, it's probably better than bare wood. And at least it will hopefully stop people saying, you're broadcasting from a sauna. So
No, you'll still get plenty of abuse though. So next week, are you saying that your whole back behind you is going to be black foam?
well, I haven't decided how far to do it because like the room is a reasonable size, and I think it would be quite oppressive to have all of every wall covered. I think probably just doing this corner will have like 90% of the desired effect. Plus, I did only get 36 square feet of stuff, and obviously I can buy more if I need to. So yeah, it's just going to be. I'll just kind of see how much I can cover. As always, I forgot to do a before recording for comparison purposes, so I'll just have to.
Well, if only we had some podcast to fall back on.
That's true.
Yeah.
I wasn't 100% thinking about the podcast. It was kind of more for sort of music production. But yeah.
How are you getting it onto the wall? Comes a question from our still listening readers. That's from Michael.
It came with a load of these glue dots, which are very nice and simple. You just peel them off the plastic and stick it on the foam, and it's very, very gluey and tacky and kind of a bit gloopy and gelatinous, so it kind of like it really does grip onto the foamy uneven surface. Then you peel off the back, which is incredibly fiddly, and you push it on the wall. And so far I've been doing this for about an hour and a half now, and so far none of them seem to have moved or fallen off. So
How many have you put up, Darian?
it's a bit hard to tell now because they're all very close together, but I think that's going to be 3, 6, 9. Is that 12? And another 6 there. 18 then that would be. Well, maybe it's. Maybe it's
How many of these
15.
do you get into your tumble dryer at one time then?
9.
9? Jesus.
Well, they scrunch up really small. I've got some. I mean, like I say,
Yeah, but not
when you get
now. They come out massive.
1 second.
This is the red button hardware for those still with us. We'll be voting in a minute.
I think we should have a vote.
Oh, Jesus. It needs to
So
work
just-
on that. It
just-
needs to
just-
dampen that down.
Just got a load of them drying out in the garden because they weren't quite finished. So this is the.
Neighbours must be going, what the hell is the bloke next door doing?
This is
He's
obviously
got,
one
he's
of
got
them.
very strange pants, Muriel.
As you can see, it just goes like that, and you can.
Oh,
I'm
It's
in.
foam.
I'm in. I'm going to get some.
Well, why not?
I'm going to get shouted at by the missus for bunging up a tumble dryer with. Oh, that's sounding like a 1970s routine. I'll stop right now.
All right. Anyway, so I've got a podcast to produce, and I've got lots more of these to stick up, and I should probably have some lunch. So, thanks,
Are you saying
everyone.
goodbye,
I
Daniel?
am.
Is
Yes,
that
I'm
your way of saying
winding up.
goodbye?
So I'm doing the opposite of the Irish goodbye. I'm doing the anti-sneaky Pete. I'm doing the longest possible, most drawn out.
well, and Nick's just moving further and further away.
Just trying to subtly leave.
All right. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
you
Till
later.
next
Cheers
week.
then.
Bye.
Bye.